My friends, my brothers, my sisters, hear me now. There are two paths in life, and only two. One is narrow, steep, and lonely. The other is wide, crowded, and easy. But only one leads to fulfillment. Only one leads to destiny. And I'm here to tell you today only 2% walk the narrow road, while 98% sit at the gate and watch. One, because the 2% live by vision, not just by sight. Sight shows them a desert, but vision tells them there's a river ahead. The 98% see giants and turn back, but the 2%. They see the same giants and say, let's take the land. Two, because they choose pain today for power tomorrow. They wake up early. They say a no to temptations. They train their minds like warriors. The 98% say it's too hard, it's too cold. It's too cold, it's too risky, but the 2% say it's worth it. Three, because they move by faith, not by fear. They don't wait for the winds to blow right. They step out of the boat in the middle of the storm. While others wait for the perfect time, the 2% make time bow to their will. Four, because they take ownership, they don't blame the economy. They don't blame their parents. They don't blame the past. They say it starts with me. And because they take responsibility, they gain authority. Five, because they understand this truth. Small things matter. Success doesn't come in a lightning strike. It comes in drops of rain. Every choice counts. Every word, every thought. The 2% know that destiny is not a moment. It's a habit. Six, because they live for purpose, not just for pleasure. They don't chase the next thrill. They live for something higher, something eternal, something that shakes the heavens. The 98% want to feel good. The 2% want to do good. So I ask you, what path are you on? Will you rise with the 2% or sleep with the 98%? Will you live a life that echoes through eternity, or will you fade with the crowd? The choice is yours, but hear me, you were not made to fit in. You were made to break out. There are those who walk through this life guided only by what their eyes can see, what their hands can touch, what their senses can confirm, and they call it wisdom, they call it realism, they call it being grounded. But I call it blindness, because the greatest things ever accomplished were not done by men and women who walked by sight, but by those who were driven by something deeper, something higher, something louder than circumstance, something more powerful than logic, and that something is vision. Sight will show you a bank account that's empty, but vision will show you a future overflowing with provision. Sight will show you a broken home, but vision will reveal a healed generation. Sight will tell you to quit when the odds are stacked, but vision says keep going, because the breakthrough is just one step beyond the pain. Sight says the door is closed, but vision tells you to knock again, to kick if you must, to dig under it, to climb over, to refuse to bow to what the eye sees, because what the eye sees is temporary, but what the spirit sees is eternal. Sight is bound by the five senses, but vision is set free by divine purpose. Sight is a prisoner of past experience, but vision is a warrior of future potential. Sight says stay in the boat because of the storm, but vision says step out onto the water even if it trembles beneath your feet. Sight waits for confirmation. Vision creates confirmation. Sight needs permission. Vision needs conviction. Sight needs evidence. Vision needs... Too many people live their whole lives reacting to what they see, stuck in cycles because they never see beyond the now, never see beyond the paycheck, beyond the rejection, beyond the diagnosis, beyond the betrayal. But the ones who rise, the ones who build, the ones who change their family tree are the ones who say, I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what it feels like. I don't care what it sounds like. I care what I was shown when I closed my eyes and opened my spirit. You see, sight can be trained by the world, but vision is shaped by fire, forged in the quiet places where no one sees, where no one claps, where no one validates. And it grows in the dark until one day it breaks through the surface and everyone calls it sudden. Everyone calls it lucky, but they didn't see the vision that kept you moving when sight said stop. They didn't see the nights you wept, the prayers you whispered, the promises you held onto with bleeding hands. Sight will always shout louder in the moment, but vision whispers the ages. It reminds you that you were born for more. It pulls you toward destiny when comfort begs you to stay. It drives you up mountains sight says are too steep. It keeps you building arcs in deserts when there's not a cloud in the sky. It keeps you planting seeds in famine, dancing in drought, praising in prison, because vision does not need permission from reality to believe. And I tell you now, if you want to walk in the realm of the 2%, you must be willing to be misunderstood, to be mocked, to be doubted, to walk alone sometimes, because sight is popular, but vision is prophetic. And the moment you start living by vision, you become a threat to every system built on fear. Every mindset chained by doubt, every voice that told you to settle, every lie that told you you couldn't, and suddenly the gates start shaking, the ground starts shifting, and something in you comes alive that sight tried to bury. Well, don't you dare trade your vision for the approval of those who only see what is. Don't you shrink your dreams to fit someone else's sight. Don't you let the fog of today blind you from the fire of tomorrow. Because when you stop living by sight and start walking in vision, you won't just change your life. You'll change lives, you'll change legacies, you'll change eternity. There's a war inside every human heart, a constant pull between what we want now and what we want most, a battle between the craving for comfort and the call to conquer, between the loud voice of desire that screams for pleasure, escape, ease, and the quieter voice of discipline that whispers of growth, sacrifice, and strength. And though the world tells you to follow your feelings, to obey your urges, to chase what feels good in the moment, those who succeed, those who rise, those who change the world are not slaves to desire. They are masters of discipline. Desire wants to sleep in. Discipline says, get up. Desire wants the sugar, the screen, the shortcut. But discipline chooses sweat, silence, and the long road. Desire wants to quit when it hurts. But discipline says, pain is the price of progress. Desire lives for the weekend, for the dopamine, for the rush. But discipline lives for legacy, for purpose, for something eternal. And if you listen to desire long enough, you will always lose what matters most. But if you bow to discipline, you gain the power to build what others only dream about. Desire gives you comfort now and regret later. Discipline gives you discomfort now and reward forever. Desire is easy to follow because it feels right. But feelings lie, feelings fade for the wind. And the 98% follow their feelings straight into mediocrity, while the 2% anchor themselves in discipline and structure and systems that don't care how they feel but care deeply about who they're becoming. Discipline is the decision to do what's right long after the feeling that made you want to start has passed. It's the grind in the dark, the repetition no one claps for, the early morning run, the late night study, the silent no when everyone else says yes. It is the seed buried in the soil that knows the sun will come if it just stays planted. And no desire screams for escape. Discipline digs in deeper, refuses to run, chooses to grow roots that cannot be shaken. The reason most people never taste greatness is because they obey their desire more than their destiny. They want the body but not the workout. They want the business but not the boring days. They want the result but reject the routine. They want the mountain but hate the climb. But discipline, no discipline, it climbs anyway. It shows up anyway. It repeats the boring anyway, because it's not chasing feelings, it's chasing future. Desire will always have an excuse, a reason to delay, a justification for weakness, but discipline gives no excuse, takes no shortcut, makes no apology. It is ruthless with distractions and merciless with delay. And when you live by it, you start to separate from the crowd, because most people are held hostage by what they feel, but the few, the rare, the unstoppable, they are held together by what they've committed to do no matter what. Discipline doesn't need hype. It doesn't need motivation. It doesn't need applause. It is quiet. It is sacred. It is forged in early hours and lonely nights and denied cravings and relentless repetition. And every time you choose it over desire, you grow stronger, more focused, more free. Because true freedom is not doing whatever you want. It's having the strength to do what you must even when you don't want to. And I tell you this not to impress you, but to awaken you. Because if you want to walk with the 2%, if you want to rise above average, if you want to build something that lasts, you must kill the lie that says desire is your guide and embrace the truth that only discipline can take you where desire cannot go. Only discipline can build what desire keeps destroying. Only discipline can carry the weight of a calling. And when you make that choice daily, painfully, faithfully, you won't just win once, you'll win for a life. Faith is not a feeling, not a wish, not a soft hope whispered into the air. Faith is motion. Faith is muscle. Faith is movement when everything in you says freeze, when everything around you says wait. When the storm is raging and the light is gone, and the path is unclear and logic says it's over, but something inside you says move anyway, step anyway, go anyway. Not because it makes sense, but because it was spoken. Not because it's safe, but because right. And that's why the 2% rise, because they don't wait for clarity. They create it through courage. Most people think faith is belief, but belief without action is just decoration. Belief without movement is just noise. Belief without obedience is to theory, and faith is not theory. It is fire, it is bold, it is dangerous to fear and to comfort. and a comfort and a compromise. And the ones who walk in faith don't wait for the map to be complete. They take the first step and trust the ground will rise to meet their feet. They leap before the bridge is built. They sow seed in famine. They march around walls before they fall. And they move even when there is no proof, because faith doesn't need proof. It becomes the proof. Faith doesn't wait for the storm to stop. It walks through it. Faith doesn't wait for approval. It walks alone. Faith doesn't wait for resources. It multiplies what little it has. Faith doesn't ask how long it will take. It just says now. It just says forward. And when you live that way, when you move before you're ready, when you act before you see, you become the kind of person the 98% cannot understand, because they are still checking the wind while you're already halfway across the water. The 2% have faith not just in their minds, but in their hands and their steps and their choices and their calendar and their discipline. And they don't just pray for doors to open. They knock, they build, they push, they try, they risk, they lose, they get up, they risk again. Because real faith doesn't hide in the corner waiting for a sign. It gets in the ring and throws punches until heaven answers or hell retreats. The problem is not that people don't have faith. It's that they've buried it beneath fear, beneath the addiction to certainty. And as long as you're addicted to certainty, you'll never walk in destiny, because certainty, you'll never walk in destiny. Silence your confidence in the unknown. Your leap when logic says sit down, and while the 98% analyze and overthink and wait for guarantees, the 2% move, and it's in the motion that the miracle happens. Faith without action is like a fire without heat, a promise without power, and the reason some never see what was spoken is not because it wasn't real. It's because they never moved, they never built the boat, never stepped onto the battlefield, never showed up to the fight. And you can quote scriptures and read every book and go to every seminar, but if your feet never follow your faith, your life will stay exactly where it is while your calling cries out in the distance for someone brave enough to move. There are people who have been sitting on dreams for years, waiting for the stars to align, waiting for more time, more money, more confidence, but faith doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It makes the moment perfect by stepping into it. And when you walk by faith, you start doing what others only talk about. You start seeing what others only dream about, because faith is not about waiting for God to show up. It's about moving like he already did. So if you want to break free from the 98%, if you want to walk among the few, if you want to live a life that shakes heaven and terrifies hell, then stop waiting, stop stalling, stop needing the whole plan, and start moving on the word you already received. Because your faith is not proven by what you say. It is proven by what you do when everything says don't, when everything says stop, when everything says turn back. And you say, no, I will move forward, not because I see it, but because I believe it. There comes a point in every life where you have to decide if you're going to take ownership or keep making excuses, if you're going to look in the mirror and say it starts with me, or keep pointing the finger and saying it's because of them, because the truth is no one gets free making excuses. No one gets strong blaming the system. No one climbs mountains waiting for someone else to carry them. And while the 98% build shrines around their struggles and reasons and wounds, the 2% rise from the rubble and say, I may not have caused it, but I will end it. I may not have chosen it, but I will overcome it. Excuses are easy, they're seductive, they're addictive, they come gift-wrapped in sympathy and padded with false comfort. They sound intelligent and feel justified and masses, but they are chains nonetheless, dressed in logic, but soaked in fear. And every time you let one slip from your lips, you reinforce the cage around your own potential. You shrink your own strength. You surrender your own authority, because every excuse you make gives your power to someone or something else. Oh, responsibility doesn't wait for fairness. It doesn't demand perfect conditions. It doesn't ask for someone to come save the day. It looks life in the face and says, I'll carry this, I'll fix this, I'll rebuild from this, I'll rise anyway. Because while the 98% keep asking, why did this happen to me? The 2% declare, what can I do with what I've been given? And that shift right there, that decision to stop waiting and start owning, what separates the remembered from the forgotten, the victors from the victims, the lost. The greatest lie the 98% believe is that someone else is responsible for where they are, and as long as they believe that lie, they stay stuck, they stay bitter, they stay small, because you cannot build a life worth living on a foundation of blame. You cannot grow if you keep watering your excuses. You cannot be free while your identity is tied to being the one who was wronged. And I'm not saying what happened to you wasn't real. I'm not saying the pain wasn't deep. Pain wasn't deep. But I am saying you were greater than what happened, and you are not what you went through unless you choose to stay there. Responsibility is hard. It hurts. It humbles. It means owning your mistakes, facing your laziness, calling out your own inconsistency. It means choosing growth over pride and progress over pity. It means telling the truth when it would be easier to blame. It means getting up when nobody comes to help. It means forgiving even when they don't say sorry, because responsibility doesn't wait for justice. It moves in power anyway. And the moment you stop explaining your failure and start extracting wisdom from it, the moment you stop defending your delay and start designing your comeback, the moment you say, I'm done giving away my pen, and I will write this story with my own hands, is the moment the shift happens. The chains break, the fog lifts, and suddenly the mountain doesn't look so big anymore because you've grown strong enough to climb it. You don't need more chances. You don't need more applause. You don't need more excuses. You need to own it, own the laziness, own the distraction, own the delay, and then burn it all down and start walking, start building, start taking responsibility like your life depends on it, because it does. And no matter what they took from you, they didn't take your ability to choose, your ability to rise, your ability to act. And if you still have that, then you still have everything. So if you're tired of repeating the cycle, tired of watching others rise while you stay stuck, tired of waking up with regret, then today is the day, not when they change, not when it gets easier, but when you change, when you say no more excuses, when you take back the pen, the keys, the wheel, and say from this moment forward, I own my life, I own my pain, I own my healing, I own my breakthrough, and nothing and no one can stop a person who takes full responsibility for becoming who they were born to be. Destiny is not a mystery, not a lottery, not something decided in some distant future or hidden in the clouds waiting to be revealed. Destiny is shaped one decision at a time, forged not in grand moments, but in the quiet corners of ordinary days, not in the spotlight, but in the silence, not in what you dream, but in what you do, because every time you choose discipline over comfort, focus over distraction, integrity over convenience, you are laying brick by brick the road toward the life you were created to live. And the tragedy is that most people don't miss their destiny in a single failure. They miss it one neglected choice at a time. It's not the big things that break most people. It's the small compromises, the 5 minutes they said didn't matter, the skipped task they swore they'd get back to, the one time they ignored the voice that told them to get up, show up, level up. And the truth is, you don't become extraordinary by accident. You don't become powerful by chance. You don't build legacy by default. You do it by making the right choice when it's inconvenient, by doing what must be done, even when no one sees and no one cheers and no one promises a reward. Every day is a crossroads. Every moment is a test. Every habit is a vote for your future or against it. And you either rise or you decay. There is no standing still. There is no pause button on growth. And while the 98% wait for the right moment, the 2% create the moment by showing up when it's hard, working when they're tired, choosing progress over perfection and responsibility over excuse, because they know destiny is not found. It's built, and every daily choice is a brick or a break. You can dream big all you want, but if your choices don't match your vision will rot in the prison of good intentions. Then good intentions don't change the world. Consistency does, and the painful truth is that it's not the dreamers who win, it's the doers. Not the ones who talk about potential, but the ones who wake up early, stay up late, put in the reps, turn off the noise, and do what must be done long after the motivation is gone. Your destiny isn't waiting in some distance someday. It's staring at you in your daily routine, in your calendar, in your conversations, in your cravings, in your responses to pressure and pain and resistance. And the difference between the 2% and the 98% is not talent, not luck, not background. It's choice, repeated, deliberate, daily choice that says, I will not sell my future for the comfort of now. I will not trade greatness for the ease of today. I will not bow to distraction when discipline is calling my name. And don't think for 1 second that the little things don't matter, because it's the little things done daily that become the big things that shape your identity. And what you tolerate in the small moments, you will become in the long run. So don't you dare downplay the power of showing up. Don't you underestimate the force of one focused hour. Don't you ignore the miracle of one. Destiny does not bow to opinion. It does not submit to emotion. It does not care about your excuses. It responds to decisions that obey sacrifice. It honors faithfulness that refuse to waste the day they've been given. And the moment you start living like today is sacred, like time is holy, like your actions echo in eternity, you stop being a prisoner of potential and start becoming a person of purpose. So if you want to be one of the few, one of the rare, one of the 2%, if you don't just talk destiny, but walk in it, then stop waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect motivation, the perfect season, and start making the right choice right now. And then do it again tomorrow and again the next day. Because it's not the big leaps, but the small, faithful steps repeated in the dark that shape the kind of person who doesn't just reach destiny, they redefine. There is a battle raging in the soul of every person between the pursuit of purpose and the pull of pleasure, between the eternal weight of why you were born and the fleeting thrill of what feels good right now. Between the quiet call of greatness that whispers in the dark and the loud shout of indulgence that promises escape. And though pleasure is louder, faster, cheaper, purpose is deeper, stronger, eternal. And the tragedy of the 98% is not that they didn't have purpose. It's that they traded it away one compromise at a time for the cheap high of pleasure that never lasts and always takes more than it gives. Pleasure is easy. Pleasure is everywhere. Pleasure is addictive and applauded and normalized in a world that celebrates escape and mocks sacrifice. But purpose demands your all. Purpose makes you bleed and sweat and stretch and wait and keep going long after every shallow craving inside you is begging for comfort, begging for relief, begging for the shortcut. And the 2% rise not because they're better, but because they've decided that who they're becoming matters more than how they feel in the moment. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot chase purpose and chase pleasure at the same time, because every yes to pleasure is a no to purpose. And every yes to purpose is a cross you must carry that pleasure will never understand. And only one of them delivers something that will still matter when the lights are off, when the crowd is gone, when the mirror is honest, and you either choose to entertain your comfort or you choose to build your calling, but you don't get both. The difference between those who fulfill their assignment and those who live a life of regret is not intelligence or talent or resources. It's which one they chose to obey, the voice of purpose calling them to grow or the voice of pleasure calling. Always try to keep you small, but purpose will always call you high. You don't find purpose on accident. You don't stumble into it while binge watching your way through life or numbing your soul with cheap highs and shallow goals. You find it when you choose obedience over options, when you choose calling over comfort, when you look at the distractions that offer nothing and walk past them, head held high, because you know what's at stake and you know what it costs, and you've already counted the price and said yes anyway. Pleasure will never fulfill you. It will entertain you, distract you, exhaust you, but it will never satisfy the deepest hunger of your soul. And the longer you live for it, the more numb you become to who you were meant to be. And I'm not saying you won't feel tired, tempted, but I am saying that every time you choose purpose over pleasure, you're digging a deeper foundation for a life that cannot be shaken by circumstance, by pressure, by storms, because it's built on something unshakable. Purpose will ask for everything. Purpose will stretch you until it hurts. Purpose will make you walk alone when no one else understands, but purpose will never leave you empty, because every drop of pain, every denied craving, every night you chose the work over the escape is planting something inside you that will grow into impact, into influence, into a legacy that no amount of pleasure could ever create. So the question is not what do you want today? The question is what do you want your life to mean when it's all said and done? Because pleasure will fade, but purpose will echo. And if you want to rise above the 98%, if you want to become the kind of person who changes the atmosphere when they walk into the room, you must choose purpose again and again and again. Even when it hurts, even when it's lonely, even when it's lonely, even when it's slow, because purpose doesn't always feel good, but it always produces greatness.